Session Blood. Hello and welcome everybody. Today I'm going to be playing Warrior against Ranger. So in this matchup, basically I'm going to go over what I keep in the game when it comes to the sideboard and what I'm going to be playing. And just to give you kind of an overview of this list, I'm going to be playing a deck that I put together right after the release of Crucible. So using cards like Hit and Run, and also cards like Out for Blood, allows me to basically increase my odds of hitting those go-agains, and potentially pumping cards like Command and Conquer, Coax, Commotion. I'm also running things like Pursuit of Knowledge, and yeah, basically trying to get value of that. Now I'm versing a Ranger, and this list I expect has quite a few. I don't think I'm going to be needing the remembrances in this matchup because I'm expecting my opponent to run out of arrows before I need to use a remembrance. So just going to go quickly over my list and take out some cards I probably won't need. I do run quite a few blues. For those interested to have a look at the list, I'm going to be posting it in the comments. In the description. Springboard. Now what I might do, I might just take out the red steel blade shunts as my opponent messes around with my defense reactions quite a lot if he's playing cards like Increased Tension and Remorseless. Now we're going to just roll to see who starts the game. I'll just might let my opponent know that I'm going to be going first. Okay. Alright. Oh, I have to change color. Alright, so the aim of the game is to basically make my opponent run out of arrows. We can go into a fatigue game, or basically what I might just do is force some cards out. So I'm going to pitch a Steelblade Shunt here, leaving me with a resource floating. So I'm going to go Warrior's Valor, just using up a blue and hopefully getting a double block here as it's attacking for 4. Now I have the option to go for a Singing Steelblade. Getting potentially, yeah, there's no point doing that now. So what I might do is I'll play a defensive game. I'm going to Arsenal Somersault here and try and grind my opponent out. Ooh, some really good cards here. Okay, now this is a sort of card that is really good against Warrior, a Sleeping Dart. Now my opponent has 2 cards in hand, potentially, a Pitch and Razor Reflex or a Lunging Press are cards I have to watch out for. Now I do have that Somersault in my arsenal, but this hand just looks so good. I don't think I can take the damage here. So what I might do is 2 cards in hand. I might just play it safe. Wait, it's attacking. Yeah, it's attacking for 7. Yeah, I'm just going to play it safe and basically go for a Spoils of War. Now the difference between Warrior and Ranger is that whenever I attack with things like my Dawnblade, and he uses his cards to block. Eventually throughout the game I'm hoping to basically grind it out. So yeah, I'm attacking for 5, my weapon automatically has go again. And if it hits twice, I get to do some crazy stuff. And by that I mean just attack again and maybe get some copper tokens. But basically what I'm trying to do is make sure that I strip my opponent off from 2 cards. So, you know, I'm basically using 1 card, the Spoils of War, to get rid of his 2 cards. So eventually if I keep on doing this over the course of the game, my 60 cards versus my opponent 56, I'm hoping to basically fatigue my opponent in this matchup. I think with decks like Warrior, with decks like Ranger, I think it's worth going a bit higher in the card count. I've seen, you know, aggro Rangers go for something like 60 card decks, and I think that's just a little bit too few because of the risk of fatigue. So yeah, we see our... Okay. So that's one defense reaction. You know, used up 2 cards, used a defense reaction, and I think it's really crucial for me to make sure that my opponent runs out of defense reactions here. Ooh, double determination. Now this card is great when you have cards like Spoils of War, because it's just much easier to get those triggers. Man, now thinking back, maybe I should have left 1 Remembrance in there, just in case I do run out of these big, powerful cards like Ironsong Determination, which set up my my attack. Attacking me for 7. I think I'm just gonna... This card is just too good, so what I might do is use up the Somersault, make sure I don't take any damage, and then attack with Enlightened Strike as well. Yeah, so what... I mean, another option is to attack with Enlightened Strike for 5, go again, use Tunic, but I think I'm just going to go for 7 here. Putting this on the bottom. Who knows, maybe I'll actually do some damage this game. For once. But, you know, life totals in Flesh and Blood are a really important measure of how the game is going, but I really like to look... I mean, it's easier on the tabletop simulator to just have a look and see how many cards your opponent has left. But a good measure is also just keeping track, just counting, having a look, you know, asking your opponent, hey, can I have a look at your graveyard, having a look, see what threads they have left in the game. So I could do that here now. You know, used up 1 defense reaction, 1 Enlightened Strike, cards like, you know, 3 of a kind do end up being quite relevant. So my opponent's not reloading, that means they probably don't have a go again arrow. Oh, they are reloading. Okay. It's probably some kind of a pump that they're going to use on their turn. Wow, now this is a hand. It's tricky because my opponent does have 3 cards in hand. You know, maybe they're hoping to... Ooh, Enchanting Melody. That's actually a really good card against us here. Attacking for 4. Now I really wish I had that Somersault. Okay, so I mean, they basically cancelled our turn because our next turn was going to be doing something like pitching Warrior's Valor, going for a Red Warrior's Valor into a Determination. That's 7, so that would just... Basically the Melody shuts that attack down because it allows that block. Am I willing to... I think I might have to... They do have a resource on Tunic, so this is tough. If I double block, I can still go for a play like Warrior's Valor into a Warrior's Valor, basically forcing a block on top of the Melody, which I think could actually be the play here, and then saving that determination for once I get rid of the Melody. Okay, I'm just going to play it kind of safe here and double block. I guess they didn't have go again, so I'm not sure if that was the right play. Probably not. Okay, I'm just going to go pitch, Warrior's Valor, and attack. So it's attacking for 6. I do have 1 resource floating, so potentially, you know, I am trying to bluff some kind of 1 or 2 cost defense react, probably 1. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do is just force a single block. Yeah, exactly. And the Melody pops. Hopefully our opponent had maybe a defense reaction in his arsenal, trying to play it safe. Yeah, they did. They had the tripwire trap. Yeah, and let's hope that they miss on their Azalea. So Azalea lets them put a card from the arsenal in the bottom of their deck, and then put a card from the top of their deck onto their arsenal, and if it's an arrow, it gets Dominate, which just makes it really hard to block. In terms of our next play, we have some really good cards here. We have the Hit and Run, Glint, and we might see a red in the ledger here, which would be... It's pretty good if we kind of go again on our next turn. So, I mean, before Crucible got released, I think Warrior had a very big edge against Ranger, just because of the Ranger lacks equipment blocks, and it makes it quite easy for the Warrior to gain value with the and get counters on the Dawnblade. And I mean, if the game goes late, usually the Warrior, because of the constant weapon attacks, ends up with more cards left in the library, whereas the Ranger player tends to run out of arrows and eventually lose. But it's a lot more evenly matched, I would say, with the release of Crucible, because, you know, Ranger got cards like we're seeing here, Sleep Dart, which is a great card to stop Warrior's turn. We're also seeing cards like Remorseless, which is just another great arrow with a very strong on-hit effect. And cards like, yeah, there's that red in the ledger. Okay. So it goes on top, but our opponent does not have a card in the arsenal, so they... I guess they do get to reload with the knock. Okay. Always very... Okay, so they prefer to draw the red in the ledger, which might make it a bit easier for us to block. But I think I'm still going to be taking this damage from the Sikkim shot. Okay. So I'll take the damage here. They might have something like Take Aim in their hand? No. So this one is shooting for 6. Okay, so do I... Basically I have to decide what I do. I need to block this. So what I might do here is block with my Skullcap for 2. This is attacking for 6 because of the +1 from braces. And then I'm going to sink below, which fully blocks it. I'm not going to try and go sink below because I really like my hand. I do hope that my opponent does not have a defense reaction in their arsenal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, I'm just going to try and go for this determination play here. Determination, pitch, and swing, which leaves me with 2 resources up. Now my opponent could just take this damage. If they do decide to take this damage, I'm kind of forced to use my I could play the Glint. So yeah, it's a smart play to pass the priority here because it either forces me to use my bolters or use my Glint, and I'm gonna Glint, and now they can basically use a defense reaction. So now I'm gonna basically use 1 and come in for 5. Sweet, so now I get a counter on Dawnblade, and my opponent did not. I'm guessing that they couldn't use this card in their arsenal. They couldn't block out my Dawnblade, so they just decided to go for, that's basically trying to save their cards in their hand and hopefully go for a bigger play on their turn. So yeah, I do have that Out for Blood, which I think is going to be a great way to make sure that my Dawnblade hits again on the next turn. But I'm expecting my opponent to have a powerful attack on their turn as well. So they did get to opt. Okay, now this is going to be a really powerful attack. Okay. So now they're just really hoping to draw an arrow card. For them, preferably, it will be something that is quite impactful, like a sleep dart. Oh, so now they get to opt twice. Yeah, so they're going for a really big, I'm assuming they're going for a big dominated arrow. Something like Red in the Ledger would be really annoying, and as I mentioned before, the Sleeping Dart would be quite annoying as well. Because on my turn I basically want to put in the aggro, using cards like Warrior's Valor, guarantee my Dawnblade a go again if it hits. But yeah, let's see. It is a Red in the Ledger. It's going to be a really, really big hit. But it's going to be interesting to see. Okay, so they're just going for it. That is a massive attack. 14 damage. So I'd have to prevent 14 to stop this attack. Yeah, they decided to pitch something else. Okay, they don't want the trap here. I think they know that my attack won't be as great, so yeah, they're just going for this. Now I'm really tempted to, I'm only going to get 1 action point next turn, so I might just block with as much as possible. Now, I'm thinking whether to block for 6 with these 2, whether to block with for 9. But yeah, it is tricky, because I do want to guarantee the Dawnblade to hit again, but this is just hard. I think I'm going to go for this safer option and block for 9. take 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, only have 1 action point on my turn. And yeah, and that action point is gonna be, hopefully I get to basically keep my counter on Dawnblade. So my opponent might be thinking right now, okay, so, you know, if he's got one, I've got 2 resources open, so this could be a route, could be a Razor Reflex, it could be an Iron Song response. There's a number of things that it could be. But yeah, basically just a simple attack for 4 here. So yeah, I think their thinking is basically, do I have the pump or do I not have the pump? They can, you know, basically I think my opponent wants to shut down the Stormblade counter because it can get out of control. I'm glad that I have, that I'm ahead in life at the moment. Okay, so they're really going for it. So I think what I'm going to do is try and secure this Dawnblade counter. So make it 7. Yeah, so they take 1 damage. And my Dawnblade counter stays there. Okay, so I have quite a powerful hand here. It allows me to go for a Supremacy, Valor, Steelblade, and a counter on Tunic, means that I can basically pull off a massive attack next turn. It's just a matter of whether my opponent can somehow shut it down with another red... Oh my goodness, they can. Red Ender Ledger. This card is just so good. It's attacking for 8. So I think my best bet here is to... I think I have to block with the Supremacy. Yeah. I could block. Basically force... I don't want to use these blocks just yet. I do want to basically... I think the Warrior's Valor... I guess this... for me, it depends whether I want to keep this or this in my... for late game, for when I pitch. Singing Steelblade. I could Glint. Like... I could potentially Glint a... Singing Steelblade a Glint. If my Dawnblade gets blocked, then I would... Okay, I'm going to go for a play here. I'm going to block for 8. Could be a bit aggressive. I do lose these 2 great cards. And basically... Yeah, I have to pitch Dawnblade. Warrior's Valor for Dawnblade. Leaves me one resource. Now, if this gets double blocked, that's probably a mistake. But yeah, let's see what my opponent does here. If they do double block, I can still Singing Steelblade into... Okay, so this is a perfect scenario where they went to fully block it out with the take cover. So I'm going to use the 1 remaining resource, play Singing Steelblade, which allows me to get a Glint. and play it, drawing me a card. Okay. Alright. Yeah, I'll just arsenal and save this for later. Can't do anything else. $38 to $40. So my opponent is closing the gap quite well. And that sleep dart is just so well timed here. Yeah. It's good to see that Ranger can really give Warrior a hard time here after the Crucible. I have so many good cards, and it's really putting me in lots of tricky spots. I think what I might do is... I think I actually prefer the Warrior's Valor than Spoils here. And then I have Hit and Run for a turn where I draw either an Enlightened Strike, a Pursuit of Knowledge, or a Command. So what I'm going to do is block. I am losing a lot of armor here. Probably not ideal, but I just really want to put my opponent under pressure. I think I still have one after I attack with Dawnblade. So here I want to represent a reprise pump and attack reaction. Hopefully my opponent is going to overblock here, but I'm guessing that he's going to play it safe and just block with 2 cards. So he's got 34, I've got 40 left at this stage. The life totals are still quite high, so I think this game might potentially go to a bit of a fatigue game. As we can see, this is a good time. Always in games, try to go over your opponent's graveyard to see what threats they have left. As you can see, they have used all of their red in the ledgers. They've used 1 sleep dot in red and 1 in yellow, which is a really strong card against this deck. I mean, we're seeing, you know, some defense reacts being used, like the take cover and whatnot. So yeah. Basically, blocking with the braces last turn and stopping that arrow from hitting allows me to force that block for Warrior's Valor, because if I couldn't attack again with the Dorinthea's ability, you know, the Warrior's Valor just loses its power. So yeah, basically trying to force a double or a triple block here. And it's really important to force your opponent to block up, because cards like, you know, them blocking with threats is actually really advantageous to us. Okay. Yep, can't respond to that. And right now I'm just waiting on a Command and Conquer. There we go. But unfortunately this is not. Oh, I could do with a blue here. Okay. So they're going for a Remorseless. I don't really need to stop this attack, since I'm probably going to use only 1 attack next turn. I could block it with 1 card, but that'll be a bit of a waste. So I think what I'm going to do is save some life totals. They do get 2 really powerful cards out of my hand. But I'm going to save this Command and Conquer for a later stage in the game, so I'm just going to go for 7. Another play could have been doing something like using this, Hit and Run, attacking with a Dawnblade, and then Enlightened Strike for 7. But yeah, I think I've just been a little bit too protective of this tunic counter. It's really nice to have that, but at the same time, I'm not utilizing it enough, which just shows. Okay, so here we have a Pursuit of Knowledge. So I really want to set up a pretty interesting turn next turn, where I can go hit and run on a weapon, potentially even using a Supremacy there. Force, basically guaranteeing that go again for the weapon. My weapon's attacking for 5. And then, so that's 1, 2 resources, and then another one for the Pursuit. So I really want to go for a Pursuit play next turn. Hopefully they attack me with something that I can just sink below. But yeah, I wouldn't be too upset if I have to take 1 or 2 damage from this Remorseless. And I think that's what's going to happen. So I can't use... Okay, whenever I play an action card. So I'm going to play 1 action card, 2 action card, 3 action card. That's a lot of damage, actually. No, I'm not sure whether that play is worth it. Hmm. 3 damage. I'll take 3 damage. Okay, another option is to double block it. So I could go block it with something like the Pursuit. Maybe I will. Maybe it is worth it. So I'm on 34 cards, my opponent's on 30, so I'm still ahead. They're going to draw up. They're slowly running out of cards. I think I should play this. I think I should play it safely. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to block with the Pursuit, sink below, and I might save the Steel Blade for later. It would force a block. Okay. So I'm attacking for 3 here. Try and get my opponent to overblock here. If they use 2 cards to block, I'm not going to bother using this, obviously. But yeah, I think the Hit and Run is a card that basically forces a block here of some sorts. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and go for the grind out game. You see, because both of us are playing quite defensively, if both players commit to a very defensive play style, then the cards in the in the libraries or their decks are basically a measure of who's ahead. I hope that my Dawnblade can basically get an advantage there. My opponent is constantly running out of threats, which have been amazingly powerful. I mean, Remorseless last turn would have lost me 3 life. The red in the ledger has been extremely difficult to deal with because I have to basically just block it up and it kind of ruins my powerful plays. So yeah. Okay, here's a Pitfall Trap. So blocks it for 3. Now, and I take 2 damage. I will use this. I will pay so I don't have to lose any life. And then I think I'm going to Iron Song Response. Basically force another defense reaction from my opponent. Oh, it's from the arsenal, of course. Oh, whoa, what's going on? so I forgot my reprise doesn't trigger there. So now it's a pretty tough spot for me. My opponent has 4 cards in hand. I'm expecting a very powerful turn. Okay, cards like Steelblade Shunt could actually be really good here. Just because I do have that counter on tuning that I've had forever. I'm going to try and keep the sigils in my put it on the bottom somehow. So Enlightened Strike here is really good at doing that. The later you use the sigil of Solace, the more impact it has on the game. If you wait with... Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to try and block all of these cards up. So the arrows are actually quite interesting because they, a lot of them block attack for 4 or 5, which is just a nightmare of a block. Unless your deck has something like 3 Fate Foreseens, 3 red Sings, Springboard Somersaults. These cards are actually really annoying. So this is actually a really bad card for my opponent because they can't use Azalea ability. So it's, a bit of a waste. Unfortunately, they missed on that. I believe it was a blind Azalea. So yeah, I guess they can still go for it. Allow them to draw the card. They do get to reload. Oh, is that it? Ah, damn, that was unlucky. Okay. So what I can do here is Enlightened Strike. I don't have any way to give my weapon go again, so this hand isn't that great either. Maybe it's actually worth it to use the sigil here, Enlightened Strike, maybe that Steelblade Shunt to the bottom, and then Dauntless. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Save this for later on in the game. To be honest, I think even if my opponent blocks up the Dawnblade, I revealed that Iron Song responds, so that card is not as effective now that my opponent knows what it is there. So what I might do is just try and block them out, bluff them out with the sigil and arsenal the sigil. I think what I should have done is actually put the Steelblade Shunt in my arsenal. Okay, so they take 1. And then I'm going to come in for the Dawnblade. I think that what they might do is just take the damage here. Because I don't have a way to get go again. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sigil. So that's why I didn't keep the Steelblade Shunt in my hand. Oh. All right. Oh, if my opponent just uses that Remorseless, I'm going to be pretty happy. There it goes. Okay. Hamstring shot for 4. Never mind, it's going to be for 7. Okay. Just because the maths just looks so nice on this, I block for 5 and 2. I'm just going to use those. Finally use that tunic counter. Now, I could go for a Command and Conquer play, which is actually pretty good against Ranger, with so many of their cards blocking for 2. But I think I really just... Yeah, I think I just have to. Another play is just to attack with Dawnblade and hope they block. Hoping to get that Iron Song response going, but... You know, I think it's just going to be stuck there for a little while. Until I get a decent hand. Now I just hope that my opponent struggles to block this, possibly forcing 3 cards out of their hand. I think they will, you know, as I was saying, on this kind of fatigue game, trading 1 card for their 2 is always great. Something to be aware of. Hopefully they only have 1 card that blocks for 3 in their hand, forcing an awkward block, basically. But most of the Ranger cards block, the arrows block for 3, and the supporting cards like take, aim, block for 2. So if I'm forcing my opponent to block with all their, you know, if they, let's say they have 2 arrows in their hand and those are the only 2 cards that block for 3, that could really impact their next turn. So yeah, I think it's just a tricky situation. Okay, so my opponent prefers to lose their Arsenal card and take some damage, opposed to losing their card. Ooh, interesting hand. I can do some serious damage with this. This overpower. So in total, what I'm gonna try and do now is actually try and push through for some damage. So yeah, one of these pays for one of these. But yeah, it's just so easy for my opponent to just not block and not trigger those reprises. Okay. Here we go. It's going to be a dominated arrow. A dominated rid in the ledger. I don't mind this too much because I only want to attack with 1 card next turn, so this isn't too bad. And, you know, that's another ledger gone. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is... pitch and attack with Dawnblade. Now, one of the plays my opponent could do is just take the 3. They know I have the Iron Song response in my arsenal. Yeah, so they're just going to take it. I could try and... Can I try and force it? Not really. I can't. That's just my turn gone. Now, I was considering pitching the Command and Conquer to leave a blue in my hand. This is pretty good. I can't complain about this. Increase the tension. Okay. Alright. Oh, it's going to be a dominated poison the tips. Ooh, dominated card shooting me for 8. And it's going to force me to discard a card. Okay. Now, so what cards do I want to keep? I could take the 8. I think that is the play, actually, is just to take it, discard the overpower. I could pitch this, use this and this, and then hopefully get to Arsenal the command. Yep. Oh, fuck. I don't even know how I did that. Okay. So I go to 24 and I discard a card. Yeah, a yellow Warrior's Valor plus a Dawnblade here. What it does is forces my opponent to block for 8, which is, unless you have 2 red defense reactions, that's a really annoying block. But yeah. And they can't just not block here, because I would just be able to attack again with the Dawnblade. Having this threatens another attack reaction. Hopefully I just basically get them to overblock this with 3 cards. I'm on 25, they're on 17. I'm high life. So what are some things to watch out for? I think Ranger 1, I've seen Ranger lists basically do something, basically fatiguing so quickly can be an advantage because you really know what's left in your library. So using cards like I've seen people use 3 of a Kind with Tome on Fyendal to potentially, at the end of the game, using 3 of a Kind with a Tome out, you draw 3 cards, use Tome from Arsenal, draw another 2, that's potentially, that's at least 5 life that you're gaining, and then you have anything between 5 and 9 cards in your hand for next turn, and then you can do something crazy with cards like Purged Grapplers. Okay, so they're blocking for 5. Yep, so this is where I get to use this Iron Song response. So my opponent had an answer to that, but that just lets me arsenal my Command and Conquer, wait for a hit and run or a glint, or a Spoils of War, to basically go for a sidestep option there. Now let's see how many glints. I think I've used 2 glints. 1 hit and run, 2nd hit and run, 3rd hit and run. Okay. 1 spoils, 2nd spoils, 1 spoils left. So I'm also running out of threats here. I think I have to go on the offensive here. Next turn I could basically pitch this Warrior's Valor, Iron Song Determination. I'll be taking 1, 2 damage. Could be a little bit risky. I'm going to take quite a bit of damage. Let's hope that this card in my opponent's arsenal is not a defense react. Pitch Warrior's Valor. So I have... Yeah, now basically I really need for this to hit. So an attack for 5 is really annoying, because even if my opponent does have a trap, that it forces an equipment block. And as you can remember, I did save that Iron Song Determination way back at the start of the game, just for a situation like this, where, so there's 1 there, I think I still have 1. Okay, so this dies. Now I've got 1 resource. I think I'm not gonna... Might as well use the tunic here, I think. Yep, so I get a counter on the Dawnblade, which is just gonna cause, it's just gonna be a nuisance. I think I'm getting close to drawing that second determination. Ooh, Glint. Oh, what a hand. Unless my opponent has, they would have to have some really powerful things to stop me from just putting the pressure on. My plan always ruined, eh? Those red in the ledges. So this is attacking for 10. It would require me to dump my whole hand to stop that. Okay. Warrior's Valor is useless. Glint becomes useless. All I have is a Stroke of Foresight here. So I think, yeah, I'm just gonna block. Oh, whoops. Oh, what happened to my? Some I pressed some hotkeys. I could take 10, go down to 10. My turn. Basically, is Warrior's Valor, activate Dawnblade. Then I have Stroke of Foresight and Overpower. So that's potentially +7. I'm gonna go for the safer play. I'm just gonna block with these. Take 1, 2, 3, 4. Eventually my opponent's going to run out of these red in the ledges unless they just keep on remembrancing them back. They're on 9 cards, I'm on 19. So I think it's okay to play it safe. Here I'm just going to attack for 4. 2 resources up. But yeah. I think this should guarantee me, okay, so I'll pay 1 resource, and then Stroke of Foresight. The reprise doesn't trigger, unfortunately, but yeah, still just waiting to do my CNC combo, but ugh, Coax a Commotion. Ah, Spoils of War. This could go off. So, what I could do here is go, this is great pitch card. Spoils of War guarantees the go again. So I think it's worth going Iron Song Determination, Spoils of War. You know, do our best to basically hit with that weapon. And finish off the game. But if the weapon doesn't hit, I always have the backup of using a Command or Conquer or Coax. Always something to ruin my plan. That's okay. I'm gonna... Oh, wow. So it's coming for 8. So I won't be able to attack with my weapon again. So I might as well... This card is so good, though. Do I take 8? That's just so much damage. My other option is to use this to pitch, block with this. Spoils of War, attack for 5, force a double block. Now I won't be able to attack with I'll attack for 6 because of the counter. Force a double block, and then basically attack over Coax. Oh, this could just... Each hero draws a card. Okay. I'm just gonna block. Take 5. I think it was my last Ironsong determination. It's understandable if you disagree with that. Play, because that card is just so strong. But I just really want to go for this play here, which is pretty funny. It forces my opponent has to block anyway because they're on low in life. But this play, allowing me to pitch the Coax and then command, allows me to basically destroy their arsenal and just ruin their whole next turn. So next turn I'm going to get a free turn. And they only have 6 cards in hand, so it looks like I'm getting pretty close to close this game out here. But yeah, it's interesting these days. It's actually quite scary going down low against a Ranger. Not only do they get these dominated arrows at the end, that can, like, I probably shouldn't have blocked so early with these equipments, but basically it means cards like, what is it? The Trap. I have to use one resource. That's really annoying. Oh, this tripwire. Head effects don't trigger. There's no head effect, so... Okay. Yeah, I mean, the command lost its kind of value because my opponent doesn't have the card in arsenal, but them being so low just basically forces at least one block. I do lose a counter of the Dawnblade, but it's, yeah, I think they're basically getting desperate. When you're getting so low on cards, you have to make... Yeah, that's gone. So we still have a red Valor Sing Stroke. Okay, I see. That kind of shuts down that. I think I don't have to do anything too outrageous. 3 cards. I could even just save the Warrior's Valor. Going something like, I might as well try and push through the damage. Warrior's Valor, 2, use 1, attack with the Dawnblade. With this stroke, I think my opponent's in trouble. But yeah, I'm not usually a big Warrior player. I quite like the addition of these new cards like the Hit and Run, the Spoils of War. Cards like Dauntless are really good, especially in blue, because the ability itself is just so good, especially matchups with when your opponent has quite a few defense reacts in their deck. But yeah, okay. Blocking for 10. Blocking for 4. This is going to leave their Enchanting Melody up. So I think Is it worth burning the melody? Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. Oh. Trap. Okay, I'll pay a resource to not take the damage. Okay, my opponent really wants to keep this melody up. Which is fine, but I just don't see... At this stage in the game, Ranger gets into that problem where, you know, once you run out of cards, you can't really... Yeah, I think it's over. Yeah, so I was running 66 cards. The reason why I ran a few more than, you know, you might see players run Streamlined 60. But in this matchup, as I said before, I kind of predicted the Ranger to eventually run out of cards in their library. And I think it's a good thing to keep in mind depending on the matchups. But yeah, I got there in the end. Maybe using one more Remembrance, if my opponent did have more cards, would have been the play. The Steelblade Ridge, Steelblade Chunts, I think they could have been quite effective there as well, just to stop those, you know, they're just a great block. I mean, the yellow ones are great at blocking those 5 attack trigger cards. So yeah, I quite like going for the fatigue strategy there. But yeah, I think my opponent played extremely well considering Warrior is notoriously a bad matchup for Ranger. I was under pressure a lot with those Sleep Darts, great card. Hamstring Shot's actually quite good versus Warrior. Cards like Red in the Ledger, Remorseless, all of them are really good. Even the Enchanting Melodies caused some issues, so yeah, props to my opponent too for putting on the pressure. If you want to ask any questions about the matchup or other matchups, or if you have a particular matchup that you're unsure about, just let us know in the comments, and we'll post up a video when we get the chance. Thank you for watching.